Economics and financial incentives. Economics and financial incentives is the fifth determinant area that is of importance to whether we want to and are able to work, and is part of the determinant sphere of the personal financial situation. The term economics derives from the Greek oikos, which means house, and nemein, which means manage. The study of managing limited resources in circumstances of scarcity, in other words, to manage the resources and assets that are available. Economics is about different systems for resource management. For example, what is usually called economics, business administration, and personal finances. Economics constitutes theories on supply and demand, and economics is divided into two main parts. In microeconomics, individual choices are studied, both from the production's and the consumer's point of view, as well as theories on how individuals reflect and make decisions in production and consumption. In macroeconomics, an entire economy is studied, for example, a municipality, region, or country, focusing on flows and effects in different economic systems. For example, how political decisions affect production, unemployment, inflation, etc. Another area that sometimes counts as a third part is what's called international economics. In other words, the study of trade and capital flow between countries. Business administration constitutes accounting and financial management, acquisition, production, organization, marketing, external analysis of the market the enterprise is active in, and how the enterprise or brand should position themselves in order to be successful. Personal finances constitutes an individual's expenses, such as costs for living, for example, rent or interest on mortgage, food, transport, clothing, consumables, etc., as well as income, which could be salary from work, return on invested capital, or different kinds of benefits like pension, sickness benefits, sickness compensation, child benefits, housing benefits, etc. In microeconomics, a foundational principle is that individuals are economically maximized creatures that use cost-benefit analysis, in other words, what's in it for me, in all decisions and weighs pros against cons before making a choice in order to maximize their own profit. Cost-benefit analysis tries to estimate pros and cons through weighing in all aspects that count as profits or losses created by the project or choices that are considered. According to this principle, all humans always make the choice that results in the largest possible profit for the lowest possible costs, a so-called maximum expected utility. According to this concept, humans are assumed to, at every given decision, to weigh the worth of something happening against the likelihood that it actually happens. However, people are not this considerate and rational all the time. People are not only regulated by intellectual considerations, but also by feelings and by not making a choice at all, but rather follow the stream, where chance or other people make decisions for them. That maximum expected utility should be a description of how people act has been criticized by several researchers. There is support for that the microeconomic maximum expected utility model rather is a normative model for how people according to economic theory, should act rather than a descriptive model for how people actually act. Personal finances and incentives have great significance for staying in or leaving working life. In working life, we talk about push factors. These are factors that can push people out of working life. For example, in reorganizations, during harder times for the company, in the closure of an organization or enterprise, or when introducing new technology. In these situations, it's important for employees not to have insufficient employability through not being fully productive, having a lack of knowledge or competence, having some sort of ill health, or being too old, etc., in order to being able to find a new occupation in a new workplace. However, in working life, we also talk about pull factors. Pull factors attract employees and individuals to leave working life through, for example, better terms in the pension system, better terms in the health insurance system, better terms in the unemployment system, financial assets, etc. That may make an individual experience that they will have a better financial situation when leaving working life. Society can affect employees' financial choices. This is often associated to chronological age, since many laws regarding these aspects and social insurance systems are based on chronological age. The number of worked hours in society is significant from a societal economic perspective. The discussion is often focused on increasing the number of worked hours in the societal economy. For example, postponing the retirement age is a way to increase the number of worked hours in the societal economy. The employment rate for people aged 65 to 74 years of age has increased significantly during the 2000s, which you can see in this diagram. In order to examine the meaning of the personal financial situation to participation in working life, we examine the age group of 55 to 64-year-olds. We examine what happened to this age group in 2008 when the social security system was reorganized in Sweden, which made it harder for people to receive sickness benefits and sickness compensation. It was primarily short-term educated women who received sickness benefits and sickness compensation in 2004, before the reorganization of the social security system, and it remained to be primarily short-term educated women who received sickness benefits in 2011 after the reorganization of the social security system. It was this group, above others, short-term educated women, but also to some extent men with short-term education, that the amount of sickness benefits and sickness compensation had decreased. However, at the same time, it was for this group that the withdrawal of early statutory pension increased. It appeared that people moved from one compensation system to the other to some extent. People who were sick did not remain in working life since they could not receive sickness benefits. Instead, they exited working life by paying for their own ill health with a lower pension. We wanted to examine which occupational groups this applied to and found out that it mostly applied to women working in the production industry that had increased their withdrawal of early statutory pension and therefore did not return to working life. What we also noticed in the early withdrawal of statutory pension, besides the women working in the production industry, who often had short-term education, were not as many as men working as chief executives and higher managers both in 2004 and in 2011. Let's move on and examine the organizations and enterprises' influence on employees' personal financial situation. What measures can be taken at the organizational level in order to enable a sound personal financial situation and socio-economic security for employees? One can make sure that there are reasonable wage developments for all employees regardless of age, or that employees are able to afford a reduction of working hours when needed. But this is also connected to state-issued insurance, social insurance, pension, work injury compensation, etc. that affects enterprises and organizations and the employees' personal financial choices and situation. Private insurance, private work injury compensation, etc. also affects the employees' personal financial choices and situation. Other measures for organizations and enterprises to strengthen their employees' financial situation and socioeconomic security is to make sure that the working environment, both the physical and the mental work environment, as well as working hours and work pace, enables time for recuperation and prevents the risk of occupational injury, prevents being worn out prematurely, and thereby the risk of being pushed out of working life through sickness absence, sickness benefits, or unemployment. Organizations and enterprises are also important to their employees' financial situation and socioeconomic security through ensuring that they have up-to-date knowledge and competence so they remain employable both in the workplace and in case of new recruitment. If they need to rotate in the organization with new work tasks or in reorganizations. In this way, the risk of unemployment is decreased due to lack of work or because they lack the competence and knowledge needed to work. Take a moment to consider and reflect on the following questions. What measures are taken in your workplace to enable financial security for employees? Do they work or are other measures possible?